We came to town, we had 18 months from announcement to execution of year one, which in retrospect was very ambitious.
That'd be insane, wouldn't
Well, yes.
it?
Our team pulled off a miracle, and we
Yeah.
could not have done it without the support of our local partners and the stakeholders. When we put together our initial product ladder, it was focused on the more traditional 3-day ticket package, and really marketed towards the more traditional race fans. And what we discovered through year one is that this is the race new fans are coming to. And that new demographic that we have worked so hard to reach out to, a more female fan base, a younger fan base, more diverse fan base, they are the ones coming to this event. And we wanted to create a number of options throughout our product ladder to invite them to learn and enjoy our sport. F1 Academy is obviously a program that started not that long ago with a lot of support from Liberty Media to help bring women into motorsport. And our goal would obviously be to see a woman in that driver's seat on race night. But it's also designed to just bring women into the sport more generally. And I could not be prouder of the fact that when you walk down the paddock, you just see so many more women working for the teams, working as engineers, working on the business side, mechanics, technicians, programmers. It is about driving, but it is also about so much more than that. Hi, this is Renee Wilm, and this is Cars and Culture with Jason Stein.
She's just come off an incredible period of time here putting on the second iteration of a very historic moment in Las Vegas and for Formula One. And we're so happy to have her on the program. Renee, congratulations. Thank you for being with me.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm guessing you're coming off a fairly large high at this point. Is that correct? Do I have that accurate?
Yes, we could not be more excited with how well year two went. It was a fantastic race and a spectacular fan experience.
Did it exceed your expectations?
It truly did. We know our track is known now for the overtakes, and we were so excited to see yet another 113 total overtakes on our track.
Yeah, 113 overtakes. This is like historic when it comes to Formula One, where people talk about there being no overtaking. But you're managing to do that. Let's go back to the beginning, if we could. And I want to actually read back a quote that you shared that goes back to the original purchase of Formula One in 2017 and the vision for the Las Vegas Grand Prix. When you went to the Clark County Commissioner's office in Las Vegas, you had an idea. The idea was a night race, not only a night race, but you're going to run it right down the strip. And you said, when you explained everything to Clark County, they sort of looked at us, you said, like, what is this woman smoking? Is that accurate?
It's accurate that I said it, and it's also accurate that we had some very quizzical stares when we first came to town with our sizzle reel and our dream.
Yeah, what was their initial thinking? I mean, was it like, what in the world would you like to do here? And can you please explain it to me for a third time?
So absolutely. We basically asked Clark County to shut down 3.8 miles of a 24-hour living, breathing city that never sleeps, and to encapsulate more than 60,000 hotel rooms during the time when our track would be hot. And then we said we were going to drive cars down the strip at more than 200 miles an hour.
Yeah. And they said, how are we going to do
it? They did. They were very enthusiastic about the idea of putting Las Vegas on a global scale, like no one's ever done before. But there was a number of logistical questions, as you can imagine, that they presented to us.
Where did the logistics start and end?
Well, they still have not ended. We continue to look for new and more efficient ways to keep traffic moving, and to continue to have transportation be able to come into and out of our circuit during hot track. But from the very beginning, we spent a lot of time working with Public Works on what traffic patterns could look like, around the installation of temporary bridges that would allow ingress and egress while we were in hot track. And of course, a lot of focus around safety and security.
Yeah. Did you become a bit of a city planner to some extent?
I did. I've always really enjoyed the idea of civil engineering. So it was a little bit of a glimpse into what a career could have looked like.
When you start off with a plan like this, and maybe let's back up right to the original vision, because I know that the goal, as I said, when Liberty purchased Formula One, was to increase the global reach. When did Vegas come along in that conversation?
So Vegas had always been an idea or an ambition for Formula One, even before we Liberty acquired the asset. It is such a perfect match of speed and glamour, and truly a place that we thought we could put on an iconic event. Conversations had gone from time to time between the London team and some of the local stakeholders, but it wasn't really until after COVID started where those conversations kicked off in earnest.
And when you approach the idea of a Vegas, I mean, there is obvious glitz and glamour, but what was the biggest appeal? Was it running cars down an iconic straightaway and showcasing the city, or was it that you could create an environment where you had the most passing possible because you had a bit of a white sheet of paper?
So Las Vegas is a landmark destination. It is one of the highest end hospitality and entertainment venues that you can find in the world, which was such a great brand match for us. We thought we could create just an unprecedented event here. At the same time as LVCVA had been really reworking Las Vegas to become the sports and entertainment capital of the world, we arrived at the right time and with the right thought, which is to bring this global brand, this iconic sport, to a brand new destination here in the United States, and be able to access a whole new demographic of fan.
Yeah. Did it seem like a bit of an impossible dream at certain stages?
Yes, there were many times where we had some setbacks and just continued to push forward with our own fortitude, as well as some great partnerships with the local stakeholders. Our founding partners believed in our mission from day one, but worked really hand in glove with us to help the regulators get comfortable that this is an event that could take place.
What pushed them to the point where they felt comfortable? Where did it get comfortable for them?
I probably about a day before the year one event was once we were able to finish our initial regulatory review and permitting, but I think everyone bought into the vision of what this event could mean to the Valley and how it could put Las Vegas on that global stage in a way that had really never been done before.
We talk about year one for a minute, and then I want to transition to what you did for year two. I mean, year one, you had a couple of things going at the same time. Word on the street was that if you were a hotel owner or if you're a restaurant owner and you didn't put something on your windows to prevent people viewing, that there were going to be fines. Then there was the possibility of a strike among the workers that was averted at the last minute, and those were, I think, concessions or the grandstands, right? So you had a couple of things going on at the same time. This was not a smooth trip down the front straightaway, was it?
No, it was not smooth at all. We came to town. We had 18 months from announcement to execution of year one, which in retrospect was very ambitious.
That'd be insane, wouldn't
Well, yes. Our team pulled off a miracle, and we could not have done it without the support of our local partners and the stakeholders, in really allowing us to pull together to get the pit building built in 11 months from ground break, to move in and to make this event go off in year one. And it was a fantastic race. No one will forget when Charles passed Max on the straightaway and Max fought back for the win. Those were incredible moments for the 2023 race year.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to be there, and it was an environment that was wonderfully crazy in all aspects. The next morning, of course, you had the cab drivers and the Uber drivers complaining about the fact that they couldn't get in certain places. So you get through year one, and I'm guessing, like the Super Bowl, you start planning for year two on the next day. And what was the primary thing that you wanted to fix? What were you most focused on from the beginning?
So I'd say there were two objectives that were forefront. One was to change our product ladder in order to create more opportunities to get more fans on track. And we accomplished that by adding another 10,000 plus general admission tickets. And when we sold out for Saturday night, just seeing the throngs of fans, many of whom are new fans of the sport, enjoying our race was just an incredibly rewarding moment, given the goal we started with the 12 months earlier. And then the other goal we had was to really enhance and improve our communications plan, particularly among the local media, and to improve our relationship with the residents of the Valley. We moved so quickly to make year one happen. We just did not have the opportunity to engage in the type of community benefits that we were able to do in year two.
And did you reassure folks who drove Ubers or taxis that they'd be able to get around a little easier in year two?
We did. We had a much better communications plan. We developed that in partnership with Clark County. We also brought on a new head of corporate affairs who was instrumental in putting together a series of fantastic community events to really give back to the community that we inconvenienced so much to make year one happen. And what we've been able to do through year two is to prove we can put this event on without creating a ton of traffic and irritation. We did not have to re-asphalt 3.8 miles of streets. We put our lighting trusses up and we put our safety barriers in place, but we did it in a much more organized manner that caused far less disruption.
Yeah. You mentioned the 10,000 general admission tickets, three new fan zones also. And a more, I think there were more single day event tickets that you created too, right? So whole new packages that you really wanted to, was that just to try to make it more accessible to everyone?
Yes, absolutely. When we put together our initial product ladder, it was focused on the more traditional 3-day ticket package,
Yeah.
and really marketed towards the more traditional race fans. And what we discovered through year one is that this is the race new fans are coming to. And that new demographic that we have worked so hard to reach out to, a more female fan base, a younger fan base, more diverse fan base, they are the ones coming to this event. And we wanted to create a number of options throughout our product ladder to invite them to learn and enjoy our sport.
You had a bunch of other things going on as well. Let's talk a little bit about room rates too, because I know that was such a source of consternation in year one. They were exorbitant at the beginning when the race was announced, and then from what I understood, they were rock bottom in the days leading up to it. How did you address some of those issues for those who were attending who were from out of town?
Well, I think in year one, you're always going to have the buzz and the excitement of the inaugural event and people wanting to come and experience that first year of a new race. Then as you move into year two, we saw a lot of fluctuations throughout the year in terms of dynamic pricing, both on our tickets as well as the room rates. We saw some softness just in the Vegas market generally. But then as we got past election day, we saw a hockey stick on our demand curve. When we look back, it makes sense that Las Vegas is known for being a last minute market. That was, of course, not the case for a year one event, but that is an anomaly. What we are looking at for year two and beyond is that much more traditional Las Vegas market.
So you want to draw more locally?
We are very excited about being able to draw locally and then also from the geographies that Las Vegas would typically feed from. But we're also really hoping to see a lot more international tourists on a go-forward basis coming to years 3 and beyond, such that now that the room rates, I think, have stabilized and that the casinos and the other properties have more experience, they have more data points, and I think they'll be going out in year 3 with a more moderated rate approach, which should be more welcoming to people coming from outside of the United States.
And what was when you analyzed all of it at the end, what were the percentages? Where did people come from?
Primarily from the United States.
They're the US. Okay.
Yes,
All right.
very much so.
Interesting. So this is the phenomena that we've talked about on this show for 3 years. This is the phenomena of Formula One in America that um, those who have been following Formula One for a long time in America know that most visitors were international visitors, and now it's homegrown. That's obviously a byproduct of Netflix's popularity and attention. But you hit on something earlier. The demographic is changing. I've seen that in places like Austin and Miami and Vegas. How much is that? How much did the demographic change from year one to year two, from a gender and or age perspective?
So based on the data that we have so far, and we're obviously still collecting, but we saw very much consistency between year one and year two, and that is more women fans, younger fans, many people who this is their first Formula One race, and they're coming out to Las Vegas to learn about the excitement that is Formula One in the U.S.
It makes you want to send a check to Netflix every time you host the race, doesn't it?
Well, I'd say that the other really important phenomenon in our being able to break into this new fan base in the US was opening the sport up to social media. Prior to Liberty's acquisition, teams, drivers, they weren't permitted to be promoted on the social media platforms. And we opened it up. We opened the sport up. Now, when you think about the younger generation, they live on social media. So they're consuming that content in a way that's creating an entirely new fan base.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. Speaking of fan base and women, you have been very active in establishing and supporting the F1 Academy, the all-female series that recently just completed its first season. And tell me a little bit about that. Tell our listeners a bit about that. I know that it's designed to offer a platform to female motorsport enthusiasts and drivers, but what else is it doing?
So F1 Academy is obviously a program that started not that long ago with a lot of support from Liberty Media to help bring women into motorsport. And our goal would obviously be to see a woman in that driver's seat on race night. But it's also designed to just bring women into the sport more generally. And I could not be prouder of the fact that when you walk down the paddock, you just see so many more women working for the teams, working as engineers, working on the business side, mechanics, technicians, programmers. It is about driving, but it is also about so much more than that.
Yeah. What's the vision? I know that Vegas wants to be included on a go forward basis, right? With the F1 Academy. Where does that stand? What would you like to have happen?
Well, we're thrilled that we are able to include F1 Academy as our support race for year three. And we're looking forward, we will, yes. And we're looking forward to really highlighting these young women drivers who are so inspirational to younger girls throughout the Valley as well as throughout the United States. And they are truly role models. We were very fortunate to have some of the drivers speak at our fan experience over on the Win West lot this year. And just to see the children's reaction to seeing a teenage girl up on stage in her driver's uniform, ready to compete in a world that has been historically predominantly male, was something that was very rewarding to see and is exactly where we'd like to take F1 Academy.
Tell me a bit about Susie Wolf's involvement there too, for those who don't know.
So Susie has led this program from day one. She is a former driver herself, and she is truly an inspiration to us all. We could not be more fortunate to have her in that role. She is both an iconic businesswoman as well as I said, a former very successful driver in her own right. So she brings to these girls a fantastic role model in so many ways. And she has also put her heart and soul into making F1 Academy successful.
There's a theme here too. Since 2012, there's really only been one female race promoter, and that was Miss Mullenblatt. Is that how you pronounce her last name? Who was overseeing the Hungarian Grand Prix? You're taking charge here. You're promoting not only Las Vegas, but you're promoting diversity and inspiring a new generation of women to pursue careers in motorsport generally. Do you see yourself that way? Is that one of the causes that you're looking to accomplish?
So I spent a large portion of my career looking for ways to advance women in business, whether that was in the law field, whether that's in corporate America or now in motorsports. Um, it is not that long ago before the glass ceiling had been broken, and I'm fortunate to have been able to benefit from the work of generations before me. And it's an important goal of mine personally to create those opportunities for future generations of women.
Yeah, wonderful. I imagine, given your role over the last few years, you've continued to see even a shift in leadership roles for women across Formula One. And I'm not talking about just the technicians or the F1 Academy, but more broadly. Would you say that that's the case?
Yes, absolutely. As I mentioned, when you walk up and down the paddock now, as compared to 7 years ago, you see so many more women participating in the sport in very different ways. And obviously, our head of commercial here in Las Vegas is Emily Prazer,
Right.
and she took over the role of chief commercial officer of F1 as a whole. She is an incredibly talented lady, and I'm fortunate to have been her partner in building this tremendous event. But it would have been selfish of me to not share those talents with the broader sport.
Yeah, indeed. Let's talk a little bit about you. You have an enormous legal background. In fact, you started off as a legal assistant back in East Meadow, New York, in June of 1993, right? After graduating from St. John's University School of Law. Is that right?
So I actually started while I was in college. I
Okay.
worked my way through college and law school.
Okay. All right. And you are, but your pathway was a legal one.
Yes. So my background, obviously, I've been a trained lawyer for many years, but I've always worked on the deal side. I was a finance major undergrad, and one of the reasons I went into corporate law was because it was a marriage of business and law, and enabled me to use my skill set to create deals, to create shareholder value, and to build. I never had any interest in being a litigator. I really enjoyed the
Right.
commercial side of the
Right.
law. And then after joining Liberty in-house and taking on a more commercial operational perspective, was asked to get this project up and running, and just truly had an incredible passion for this opportunity.
Yeah, we talked to Greg on the program here, who offered high praise for you. What? Tell me a little bit about the moment when that decision was made, and maybe it was the moment where Greg approached you and wondered whether you'd want to start a race in 18 months.
So, as I mentioned, I started coming to Las Vegas during the COVID immigration restrictions when my London colleagues weren't able to come into the country, and I was fortunate to form the relationships with our founding partners, such that when we came up to the announcement event, Greg and Stefano asked me if I would be willing to continue, overseeing this project, even though it was only 18 months to go until we were going to start the event. And again, I had developed such an incredible passion for the project. I had Emily Prazer, as my partner in this venture. She is truly a unicorn of talent, and we just got at it and made it happen. And when we sat on the grid right after the podium ended, year one, it was truly surreal to realize that we had really built this from scratch, from a vacant piece of property that now sits Grand Prix Plaza, which will launch its year-round activation in 3 months. We really couldn't have been prouder to be asked to run this event.
Did you grow up in an automotive family?
My father was an auto mechanic, and
He was a mechanic.
he was a
Okay.
mechanic. And I remember growing up, my parents had a hot rod, a 1971 Ford Torino. And I would
Nice.
spend a lot of time sitting in the back as they drove around Queens and Long Island. And I've always had a love of cars. I still have a love of cars. I probably buy too many of them.
Well, that's not a bad problem. Um, and auto racing, was it ever in your purview?
I've never done it, but I've always wanted to. They will not let me drive the track with the safety car, even though I've asked many times. But it's something I've always loved. I've always enjoyed speed and fast cars myself. Fortunately, been able to avoid speeding tickets for the most part. But again, it's the automotive field is a passion of mine.
How much did you have to get up to speed about all things Formula One, and how big was that learning curve?
So I had understood the commercial side of the business, having obviously worked on the acquisition of Formula One from the beginning, as well as working with the company as the parent shareholder. But really, the learning curve for me was around the race operations side and the event operations side. Learning about the FIA regulations and how you build a track and what do safety barriers need to look like, as well as on the event space of just how do you build a grandstand and how do you piece together a fan zone. So there was a tremendous learning curve, but it was fascinating and I loved every minute of it.
Did you sleep at all in those 18 months? I'm guessing not.
No, I still haven't actually.
You're still not, right? But how complicated is that? I mean, to understand, as you said, grandstands and FIA rules, and I mean that in of itself would be a master's course in higher education.
It was a crash course
Or a
for
crash
sure.
course for you. Yeah, right.
Yeah, fortunately, no actual crashes, just a crash course.
Right.
But we had a terrific team, and I'm so fortunate to have been able to bring on board experts in all of these areas. We have a race operations team that has been with us from the beginning. Sylvia Below was with FIA before. She's now with us. She oversees our race ops group. She's another incredibly talented young woman who is going to have an incredible career in automotive racing. So I encourage you to watch her career as it develops.
For sure.
And then on the event operations side, we were able to bring on board a team formerly with Live Nation, obviously another affiliate of Liberty Media's. They were kind enough to help us at least to get started on this project and help build this team out. And just working closely with the team and maps. My head of construction was in here a moment ago, sharing some maps with me. I love a good map of a fan zone. Just putting all of the pieces together of the fan experience and the signage and the wayfinding, and then how all of that works with the safety and security needs to make sure you're complying with the regulators' requirements, and then making sure the track itself is safe to be driven on, and obviously can withstand different types of weather events. So it really ran the spectrum of information, and every single day, all day was a learning experience.
It's still going, right?
Yes, because we are only 2 years in on this project. We are still very much a startup. We had no playbook in year one. My colleague used to say that we're building the plane as we're flying it. This year, we were fortunate to have 1 year under our belt, but it was still only 1 year. And we've learned an incredible amount in putting together year two. And we are now hard at work on year three.
Are you traveling the world, examining what other tracks are doing and seeing new innovations and new ways to handle fan areas or ticketing or grandstands?
So having Emily as my partner in this venture was incredibly helpful in year one, because she was in race promotions. That was where she started at Formula One. So in the lead up to year one and to the announcement, we did she really gave me a back behind the scenes tour of so many of the tracks. And our fellow promoters were incredibly helpful and supportive. I must have clocked miles and miles and miles just walking around and viewing how different hospitality was built, and viewing how the track came together. We're a street circuit, and there aren't that many of them. Monaco is a street circuit. I've walked every inch of it with the Monaco promoters. So we had a tremendous education from our promoters. We saw a lot that we thought was fantastic. We looked to replicate, and then there was a lot we said, we think we can take this and improve upon it for our event.
And adding Las Vegas's twist, and like you did at the end of this year's race, and the transfer of the podium drivers over by the Rolls Royces to the front of the Bellagio fountain, for example.
Yes, and one of the unique things about Formula One is we celebrate every geography. in which we race. So it was a natural outgrowth of that culture to be able to highlight the true Las Vegas nature of this event.
Yeah, yeah. Now that you've been in it for a little while, and I'm sure it's been an interesting, eye-opening experience for you the last few years. But the world of Formula One, how do you describe it from an insider's perspective?
It is an incredible sport that contributes to the growth of the entire automotive business. When you look at the hybrid technology that is being used in engines throughout the world, so much of it has started as an incubator in our sport. And it is a sport that brings people together in a way that's very unique. Whether, I'm sure you've heard this before. I've referred to our fans as backpackers to billionaires, and we embrace every one of our fans. We're, throughout that spectrum. So it is unique. It reaches fans in very different ways. And I think one of the things I'm most excited about is to see how Formula One is reaching out to the next generation. My daughter is 17 years old. And a couple of years back, she and her friends in high school all, became very focused on which is their favorite driver and what team are they going to root for. And this is a sport that has historically not reached that younger generation. And that's something that we've been able to do through the work we've done since acquiring the sport.
Yeah, indeed. Let's talk about some changes. And you just mentioned one a moment ago that will happen in just mere months. But you are launching year-round access, right, to the Grand Prix Plaza. You're going to feature karting in interactive educational 4D exhibition, merchandise store, 3 new private event spaces, lots of information for the public. Did I hit on those right?
You did, and this is something we would have loved to launch in 24. Unfortunately, we were not able to do so, largely because the track and the surrounding facilities do need to be built before the race begins. So you have a kind of a abbreviated window during which you can engage in these year-round business activations. So we decided we're going to launch them in early 25, and then be able to provide access throughout most of 2025, and then obviously take it down once it's time to start building for the race. But one of the very special things about these activations at Grand Prix Plaza is that it's a way to reach those new fans. There's a lot of people in this country who come to visit Las Vegas, and they have heard about Formula One, and maybe they've seen a couple of episodes of Drive to Survive, or they've watched our race on ESPN. And now they get the opportunity to come and learn more about it in a fun, interactive way, and also to reach the families who come to Las Vegas. And what do they do during the day? Well, they can bring their kids and they can race each other on the karting track. They can go through our exhibition. They can learn more about the sport and become more immersed as those new fans.
What else would you like to do in year 3? If you had a wish list and you wanted to put it together and say, okay, well, this is going to really improve things for the next installment of the race, what would be in the top 3 or 4?
So I think we're looking to put together a new product that provides our customers with the opportunity to move around the track a little bit more. Again, in the early years of being a startup, we're very focused on safety and security, and we now have a good plan. It functions well, it works well, and I think we can start to be a little bit more flexible with how we can move people around the track. We are very excited that in year 2, we were able to activate more of the valley, and we understand that downtown was very active. Occupancy rates were up generally, and we were able to spread the wealth of our race weekend throughout the geography, and we're looking to do that even more going forward and ensure that the residents of Las Vegas are enjoying this race weekend as much as those of us fortunate enough to be on the track. And we're looking to continue to build on the success we've had working with the local community and really giving back in many ways, including working with children throughout the Clark County School District. We were able to have a Community Impact Day here on Wednesday of race week, where we brought middle school, 600 middle school children to the paddock for a behind the scenes tour to learn about STEM opportunities. And then they got a surprise visit from Lewis Hamilton. Those are the types of events that we would love to continue to engage in, to bring residents of the community deeper into our sport. And again, just continue to fill that funnel of the new fans.
And, just on that point, you committed $1 million in cash to local nonprofit organizations, $1 million in event tickets to honor residents identified as key community contributors, right?
That's correct. And that was one of the pillars of our community engagement program, which we were fortunate enough to be able to kick off for year 2.
And then there's the glitz and glamour, and it can only be glitz and glamour if it's Las Vegas. There was the ultimate VIP experience, which you could buy, and included a paddock pass, access to working areas of the teams, and Ramsay's Garage, where Chef Gordon Ramsay hosted a live cooking station and a pop-up of his London restaurant. And there was also ice. Is this right? There was an ice rink on the roof of the Paddock Club?
Yes. So on our Paddock Club rooftop, we had a number of activations, and one of them was an ice skating rink. It was not real ice, so that's a little bit of an inside baseball. But it was absolutely packed. People were racing each other. There were penguins that were tied to the various teams in Formula One. And it was such a fun, interactive experience for those who were in the Paddock Club to be able to leave their suite and roam around and enjoy all the experiences that we had on the rooftop.
Just a few minutes ago, but I want to ask you just about your interaction with the stars of the show, the Lewis Hamiltons, and you mentioned Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen. What's that been like to be around some of these personalities that cannot walk more than 2 feet anywhere in the world without being photographed? I mean, you're in and around. This is your world. You're in and around them all the time. What has that been like for you? Certainly not a merger and acquisition at a law firm.
No, you don't get a lot of celebrity appearances in the law firm at Rockefeller Center. I think they're incredible athletes, and I think that's often lost in kind of the celebrity status they hold. But the pressure that their bodies are under when they're racing at 220 miles an hour down the strip, kind of seeing them after the race when they take their helmets off and they're checking in right before the podium event, you realize just what incredible athletes they really are. And I have such respect for what they're able to accomplish in those cars.
And I know that the rest of the racing circuit around the world has incredible respect for what Las Vegas has done. You have to be incredibly proud, humbled by the attention that Las Vegas now gets on the calendar. Anybody watching Sky Sports knows the amount of activity and the spotlight that is on what you're doing in the city is monumental, isn't it?
It truly is. This has become the crown jewel of our calendar, and we could not be more proud to be the promoter of this event. Obviously, this is the first time Liberty Media and Formula One have self-promoted an event, no less of this scale and magnitude. And when year 1 completed, it was this incredible sense of pride and a little bit of relief. And then when we got through year 2, through the entire race weekend, it went so smoothly, it went so seamlessly. I think one of the things that really stands out for me was to have so many of our fellow promoters come up and tell me that it was like we've been doing this for 10 years. And that in and of itself is an incredible compliment. Yeah.
Well, the compliments go to you, and congratulations to you and your team on making Las Vegas year 2 more sparkling than year 1, which in Las Vegas is hard to do. But Renee, you are to be commended on an incredible job, and thank you for sharing your story here on Cars and Culture. You're kind of creating your own culture, aren't you? It's a Las Vegas Grand Prix culture.
It is, and we are so lucky to have a fantastic team making it happen.
Wonderful. Thank you for being on the program.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.